Hello, this is PJ Capozzi. We are going to try something new each month for my superintendent's report, and as a preview of what is old business and new business, I'm going to record this video as a way for the community to know what I typically would have said during a board meeting. We believe this would do a couple of things. First, we believe it would increase transparency to the community, which is truly the intent. The second is nobody ever complains about a little bit shorter of a board meeting, and so this will allow us to get into that. So we'll go through my superintendent's report, which you can see here on your screen in detail, and then I'll preview old business and new business just a little bit. First, every month we have a handful of items that are the same on the agenda, and as part of the superintendent's report, we have two that stay the same from month to month, and one is Springfield update. So one of my jobs as superintendent is to advocate on behalf of the district, to form relationships with our elected representatives, to stay connected with the professional organizations that represent educators, and just have a pulse on where education is going in the state of Illinois. So the highlight that's really come in the last month has done kind of all revolved around advocacy. The good news is that I've been very fortunate to be layered into the work that our professional organizations have done, and I have a very good relationship with Rep. McCumbee, who we connect with quite often, and we have a very transparent and open and frank relationship with each other. But this month is really focused on the work that IASA, which is the professional organization which supports superintendents in the state of Illinois, is trying to put together, because funding is at a really interesting and difficult point in terms of where we are currently at and where we are headed as a state. And so there's two things that I just wanted to show you that IASA helped us to work through in this last month. So what you'll see on your screen now is a spreadsheet that if you go to our website and you look at the agenda, these are tabs that you can get access to. These are not private, so you can look at them in greater detail if you chose to. But just for the sake of today, transportation is something that, again, you understand that we have to provide. And so the intent is that there's little taxation in regards to transportation and a lot of proration and reimbursement from the state, meaning we get a portion of what we spend back from the state in order to make transportation work. The issue is that the portion we continue to get back continues to shrink. And if you can look very clearly here on line 12 for us, you can see that if the transportation categorical is funded in full, that'd be an additional $345,000 that we would be getting from the state to help support our efforts. When we do not get those dollars, then we essentially have two options. And option one is to provide less services for kids, and option two is to potentially raise taxes. And so while we have not had to do either of those yet, those are things that are definitely impacting the overall budget. The second tab here is something called EBF. So EBF is an acronym that stands for evidence-based funding, and it's the system of which we get funding from the state of Illinois. So you'll see on this tab, we are line 7, which I just highlighted for you. And this indicates evidence-based funding is what we get from the state. There's a local number. That number is what we are supposed to get from local entities. CPPRT is a complicated state formula, but it's another source of revenue that we have. But then it says this is the amount that you are left unfunded in terms of these. This is the amount that you should get in order to provide, and this is the word of Illinois, to provide an adequate education for students. They call it the percentage of adequacy. So you can see, based on where we are funded from the state, we are about $5 million short of where they say that we should be. So again, we are in a difficult deficit position in terms of our budget. We are working to cut back in every way possible. This will likely, unfortunately, include positions in the future that we currently have that we would have to reduce in order to ensure that we're in a sustainable financial position. And as you can see here, there's about $5 million on the table from the state that would help make us adequately funded. Again, not excessively funded, but just adequately funded. But that is a position we are in. Next item is always on the agenda as well, which is FOIA. And so FOIA is the Freedom of Information Act. There are lots of things that are accessible to the public if they request the information. So each month we go over this just to show how much time and effort this is taking and what type of requests we're receiving. If you can click on the link and you can see all of the requests again on the board agenda. We only had, I think, 3 FOIA requests this month. Probably took a combined total about 4 hours of personnel time. So not a terrible inconvenience at this point. The insurance year to date. So this is what you will see here. Our insurance premium is projected to go up almost 25%. That's about $600,000 additional in insurance premium for next year, which again puts us in a precarious financial position. What this report does is show us, we're in a cooperative, so it shows us and our contemporaries, the districts that are in the cooperative, and it shows our loss ratios year over year. So if you're not familiar with insurance, you want your loss ratio to be below 100%. That indicates that you're operating in a healthy zone where essentially you're paying more in for premium than you're taking out in terms of claims. We are self-funded in the cooperative, which means we're not paying an arbitrary premium number. We are just paying for what we use. So it becomes even more important to try to stay in a loss ratio under 100%. So you can see Oregon here, not only this year, but the last 2 years are under 100%. Which means we've performed well against the underwriters' projections in terms of what we are going to be spending. Still, we're looking at a 25% increase. So we're doing what we can to shop vendors, to shop the cooperative, to look at every aspect of insurance that we can to try to lower this cost. But it is important to continually update the board. And so that is something that I do occasionally. Whenever we get these quarterly reports, I share that data with the board. Auditor RFP update. So there's no attachment for this, but next month you will see under new business or consent agenda, one of those 2 areas, you will see a contract with a new auditing firm. We have not been pleased with our current auditing firm, which I just won't say publicly, even though it's public information. I will not say it on this video. So we went out to RFP, and RFP means request for proposal, where we publicly broadcast that we're looking and shopping. We put those things on our websites, and we broadcast them in all of the appropriate channels. We are down to the final 3, of which we will interview, depending on when you are listening to this. It's being recorded prior to this, but we will interview people on the 13th. So by the time that we have the board meeting on the 16th, I can debrief how those interviews went. And the last thing I'll do in my report this month is to remind the board that we are having our retirement dinner, honoring we have over 10 retirees in the district this year on April 17th, and encourage them to attend. Old business preview. As anyone that's parents, I sent out an email, the weekly update about our exploration to determine if we're getting a good return on investment with our partners at OCEC. So we've been members of OCEC for well over 2 decades, and we did a deep dive to explore the cost analysis. We know what services we're getting, but we're trying to see if there's a way that we could provide the same types of services for potentially cheaper, as has kind of been the theme of my report. Unfortunately, is we are in a position where we're continually trying to buckle down financially, so trying to figure out the best way to service our students in the most cost-effective way has been a large emphasis of my work over the last year or so. So I'll preview what's happening with OCEC. And what I'll largely say is that there's been ongoing discussions with the board at OCEC in trying to get some cost relief or some more autonomy in how we make decisions. And that board meeting is happening later next week as well. And the last thing, and we will make a recommendation to the board, and I will make the recommendation to the board on the 16th to approve this prom behavior matrix. We have taken the stance this year, started with homecoming, that dances are a privilege and not a right, and that if you have out-of-school suspensions or are not demonstrating appropriate behaviors in school, then you do not get the privilege of attending after-school less supervised events. We did so at homecoming. it was both a positive and a negative. It was a positive from the standpoint of, I think we reinforced to students that behavior was important, but we did not communicate it as well as we would have liked to, as we did kind of an after action process, and we did not go through and ask for board approval. Now, this is something that's within the right of the high school administration just to administer, but we want to do it the right way and want to make sure that we have as many eyes vetting this as possible. And so this behavior matrix as to starting fourth quarter, if you do these types of behaviors, it would exclude you from prom so that we can communicate it proactively and thoroughly to parents. That is what I will be asking them to approve. So that is my report and the preview of old business and new business. Hopefully you have enjoyed this and found it informative. Thank you, and make it a great day.